The April 25th, 2023 session of Elgin County Council. It is 9 a.m. and I will call this meeting to order. First order of business is adoption of the minutes.
Be it resolved that the minutes of the meeting held on April 11th, 2023 be adopted.
Mover and seconder. Deputy Warden Jones and Councillor Widner, all in favor? That's carried. I would remind members of any disclosures of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Seeing none noted. Section 4, presenting petitions, presentations, and delegations. First, we have Ben Puzanoff, Thames Valley District School Board Manager of Planning, regarding the education development charges. Ben, welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden, members of council. I wanted to thank everybody again for inviting me to attend here today to discuss education development charges, or EDCs. So EDCs are funding mechanisms for land acquisitions in high growth school districts. So very similarly to municipal development charges, EDCs are collected from new developments for the purposes of funding growth-related infrastructure needs. So in this case, school sites. The agenda for today is up on the screen. I'll provide a very quick overview of EDCs and then outline some of the benefits as well as challenges associated with implementing and collecting these charges. We'll then conclude with an overview of next steps for Thames Valley as we start to consider how EDCs could potentially be implemented in our district. Our district has been growing very, very rapidly in recent years, which makes planning for new capital critically important to support the growth of our communities. Schools are key infrastructure, and being able to secure school sites for their construction is paramount. EDCs are a tool that is available to school boards in high growth areas in order to facilitate land acquisitions as early as possible. So this would sometimes be in advance of even having business cases for these new schools being approved by the Ministry of Education. In essence, EDCs would allow us to better plan for and accommodate growth in our communities, as our current funding model with the Ministry of Education does not permit us to buy land in advance of business cases being approved for new schools. EDCs may be collected from residential development or a combination of residential and non-residential development with some restrictions and exceptions. And they're to be used to support costs related to providing accommodation for students in the area to which the bylaw applies. So these costs are shown on the screen and generally include costs to acquire land or an interest in land, including a leasehold interest, costs to provide services to the land or otherwise prepare the site so that a building or buildings may be constructed, costs to prepare and distribute education development charge background studies, interest on money borrowed to pay for costs associated with land acquisition and site prep, and then finally costs associated with undertaking due diligence studies for acquisitions. TVDSB does not currently collect education development charges. In addition to Ministry of Education approvals related to projected enrollment and required school sites, at least one of the conditions shown on this slide must be met for TVDSB to pass initial EDC bylaws. So in order to qualify, the estimated annual average of our 5-year enrollment projections must exceed our total school capacity across the entire district, across either our secondary schools or our elementary schools. So essentially, our projected enrollment has to exceed the number of spaces that we have available to accommodate students. Based on our conservative estimates, condition 1 would be met. For the purposes of EDCs, Thames Valley would be organized into 4 regions. So the County of Elgin and the City of St. Thomas would be one region. The County of Middlesex would be one region. The County of Oxford would be one region. And the City of London would be one region. The Board of Trustees may pass an EDC bylaw for each of these regions if it deems it appropriate to do so. And funds collected in each could only be used within the respective region for school site acquisition and site prep. If an EDC bylaw is ultimately passed, Charges are collected by the respective municipalities in each region at the time of building permit issuance. And then these charges are then subsequently remitted to school boards in accordance with the legislation. The passage of an EDC bylaw by a school board authorizes the imposition and collection of EDCs. And each EDC bylaw does have a life of 5 years, but may be renewed at any time. Calculation of the charge is based on projected enrollment resulting from new development over a 15-year period. So to pass an EDC bylaw, a school board must first complete a background study, so very similarly to municipal development charges. The study provides information on the methodology used by the school board in determining the calculation of the charge, as well as the assumptions and logic employed in determining the number and timing of new developments, projected enrollment, site requirements, and estimated education land costs. And again, a 15-year planning horizon is used for this work. There are a number of benefits to implementing education development charges. Collecting EDCs would allow us to address accommodation pressures in a more timely manner by facilitating site acquisitions in advance of the Ministry of Education approving business cases for new schools. So in essence, what that does is it shortens the timeline for providing student accommodation. EDCs also allow school boards to fund growth-related land acquisitions from development rather than provincial monies under the principle of growth paying for growth. So very similar to municipal development charges. Acquiring sites when they are needed will also strengthen our business cases to the ministry and allow us to support the growth of our neighborhoods and communities more effectively. There are a number of challenges associated with EDCs. In 2018, the provincial government implemented a cap on both the initial charge for EDCs and then the annual increase is capped as well. So this effectively means that school boards are generally not collecting enough at rates that keep up with rising land costs. If there are insufficient funds in an EDC account to purchase land at the time when a school site may be required, those monies would have to be borrowed by the board. One thing to note is that those debt service charges can be recouped through future EDCs in order to ensure that all growth-related site acquisitions are covered over time. At the March 28th, 2023 board meeting, our TVDSB Board of Trustees approved initiating a process for considering whether or not EDCs will be appropriate across our district within each of our 4 regions. And this would include public consultation with our municipal and community partners. We're at the process now. We'll be getting ready to engage a consultant to help us out with this work and prepare an EDC background study. And we expect to be consulting with folks over the next year prior to presenting potential bylaws for our trustees. I want to thank everybody again for inviting me to attend today and be certainly happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation, Ben. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, Councillor Cookett.
Thank you, Mr. White, and through you to Ben. You mentioned that EDCs are for new development. Just to be clear, for example, if a new development was coming to Elgin County, who exactly is paying the EDCs? And the municipalities are collecting them, but who exactly is paying them?
Thank you very much for the question and through the warden. So EDCs are payable at the building permit stage of development. So before a building permit would be issued, an EDC payment would be required and collected by the municipality.
Mr. White, if I can follow up, and I guess I'm still not understanding. You see, the EDCs are collected at the time of the building, but who's paying the money? The developer or the residents of the area in which the school is being built?
So the warden, thank you for the question. It would be payable by the builder of the residence or the construction project.
Additional questions? Councillor Jiguer.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Through you, is there a history? Has a study ever been conducted for this school board? And do you know of other school boards in the region who are using them?
Thank you very much for the question through the warden. So historically, TVDSB has not collected education development charges, largely because we were a board in decline for many, many years. That has started to change very rapidly and enrollment is growing significantly. I do know that our co-terminus board, the London District Catholic School Board, did collect EDCs at one time. It's been, I think, over a decade now since they ceased collecting those charges. They are considering going down this road once again. And if the decision is made by their Board of Trustees to proceed, we would be partnering on one background study likely and undertaking one public consultation program with the community.
Anything further? Okay, Ben, my information may be a little out of date, but Bill 23 has some profound implications on development charges. Would education development charges be captured under that same umbrella? Whereas perhaps 60% of those funds collected the previous year must be expended on a capital project.
Thank you very much for the question, Mr. Warden. So Bill 23 does not affect education development charges. So EDCs are authorized under the Education Act, which is different than the Municipal Development Charges Act.
Thank you for that. Seeing nothing further, Jenna, please.
Be it resolved that the presentation titled Thames Valley District School Board Education Development Charges from the Thames Valley District School Board Manager of Planning be received and filed.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Cookett will move, Councillor Noble will second. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden.
Moving on with our second delegation, it's from the Southwestern Public Health, a public health unit for the future. Cynthia St. John, CEO, Bernia Wheaton, the Vice Chair, Board of Health, and Monica Newsink, Director of Finance. Welcome.
Good morning, Warden Ketchabah, Council, and to staff. Thank you very much for inviting us in to make a presentation this morning. I'm Bernia Wheaton, Vice Chair of the Southwestern Public Board of Health, representing Oxford County, elected in the City of Woodstock. The board is made up of 10 members, and as the Vice Chair, it is my delight to introduce Cynthia St. John, who will deliver the bulk of our presentation today. As you know, we're facing a number of crises here in our region: mental health crisis, housing crisis, addiction crisis, and this is all being dealt with after a challenging 3-year response to a global pandemic. Cynthia has served Southwestern Public Health and the former Elgin St. Thomas Public Health for 20 years. She's a passionate and dedicated leader with an unwavering love and appreciation for her staff. And that actually came from her staff who I've spoken to in the last few months and getting to know them. Now more than ever, the board felt that it was time to demonstrate to those staff that allocating resources is the best way that we can empower them to accomplish the lofty goals that we have, that will have a lasting and profound effect on our collective health and our well-being. And so, Cynthia, we're very proud to have you at the helm, and I invite you to make your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that kind introduction. Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Warden, members of council and staff. Really delighted to be here with you today. So I have a presentation I'll walk you through. I'm not going to read slide by slide. I'm just going to add a little bit of anecdotal information in each slide, and look forward to a good dialogue about the importance of the work that Southwestern Public Health does. So as Bernia mentioned, my name is Cynthia St. John, and delighted to walk you through some of the work that Public Health has in store and our 2023 budget. Just as a way of background, the health unit has about 180 staff. So this is staff of health promoters, health inspectors, nurses, epidemiologists, dental hygienists, dietitians, etc. We all collaborate to help achieve our vision of healthy people and healthy communities. So what you may or may not already know about Southwestern Public Health, we're all about, well, most recently over the last 3 years, containing COVID-19 and incorporating it as another infectious disease that we have to monitor. We're all about vaccinating our communities, offering comprehensive programs and services, using accessible and relevant methods of delivery, recognizing that we are a small urban and large rural community. We basically monitor the health status of the City of St. Thomas, the County of Elgin, and the County of Oxford. And our standards are defined by the Provincial Ministry of Health our Ontario Public Health Standards. In other words, they give the sort of guiding framework of what public health is required to do. And at the end of the day, we're in your schools, we're in your homes, we're in mobile vans, we're at the beach offering programs and services. We are just about everywhere we can possibly be invited to be. We do a lot of upstream public health work. So that's more at like the population health level, a broader population health level, as well as downstream one-on-one client work. We do both. And at the end of the day, we're all about prevention, promotion, and protection. Because at the end of the day, a healthy community is a vibrant community and it's an economically sound community. So these are our three strategic directions. I won't go into them in too much detail. I'll nail it on maybe three phrases. The first is we're about reducing health and social inequities. The second, it's really about we work with so many different partners in our community to basically transform systems to improve population health so that we do have healthier communities. And then our third strategic direction that the board set back in 2018 is an organizational culture of innovation and leadership. It's interesting because public health is largely a highly regulated environment. But when you have a highly regulated environment, you have a lot of risk management to worry about. But at the same time, we need innovation. We need different ideas. We need different approaches. So it is about an organization, and certainly at the board level as well, this need to balance risk with innovation. This is a little bit about the data of our community. And basically our data is both anecdotal as well as quantitative. And I wanted to let you know that the staff use various sources of data sources to inform our program plans in terms of we take the standards provincially set and define how we want to meet those standards. And so our staff are very evidence focused. They care most about what the data tells them. A lot of outcomes associated with our program plans, they take years to realize the benefit of. Like a lot of public health work is years and years in the making. Certainly not in a provincial or municipal or federal election cycle. It is in fact, most often our population health work takes decades. But I will say that there is still short-term work that lends itself to quick wins that public health also focuses on. So as much as it's doing work at the population health level that takes decades, it also does work right at the one-on-one client level that we hope sets a path for our clients that is healthier. So in terms of this data, one of the things I wanted to articulate for you is we're doing our foundational standards team, all our data folks are very keen to do some situational assessments at the moment. I mean, certainly COVID left us with extraordinary unintended consequences. So now we better understand what those unintended consequences are and readjust our programs and services accordingly. So our data team is this year looking at really a lot of questions that will inform our future programs. Questions like falls in seniors. What affects the likelihood of a fall in a senior? What affects the likelihood of positive mental health in youth? Opioid mortality. What affects the likelihood of mortality due to opioid use? What affects the likelihood of unintended pregnancies in teens? What affects the likelihood of adverse childhood experiences? Because we know all of those things influence somebody's overall health and therefore the community's health. So we're paying attention to all of those. I didn't list them all for you. There's probably 16 or 17 different data reviews that we're doing right now. Next slide, thanks. So future focused. The Board of Health approved the organization's 2023 budget on February 9th. The budget considered certainly the mention, as I mentioned earlier, continuing on, I think, an innovative path, figuring out what it needs to do as a board to rally its community to ultimately achieve positive health outcomes. And I think our innovation work can, it can be the smallest thing, but it can make a big difference. So for example, we're working with primary care right now to have QR codes for vaccination result record keeping and results, so that the individual is not having to keep track of something that can be tracked at a bigger and broader level. In our Healthy Growth and Development program, we're doing a 9-week counseling program for new moms, particularly because our postpartum depression data is significant. In addition, as I mentioned earlier, we're in a unique opportunity because public health is delivered locally, so we can design our programs and services that really consider things like this large rural geography that we have. A good example of addressing that, we just launched a new dental van that will bring dental services to every nook and cranny across Elgin County, Oxford County. Really, really important, because I think at the end of the day, when we bring services to people, they're more apt to utilize those services. Next slide, thanks. So as I mentioned, we are certainly highly regulated, but at the end of the day, here are some budget realities. We certainly have fiscal pressures, no question about it. All of you have fiscal pressures, both in your individual municipalities, at this level, at county council. And I think part of those fiscal pressures are things beyond our control, like inflation. Thankfully, it's coming down a little bit, but it's still high. Public health budgets have been provincially frozen for several years. And I think a frozen budget year over year is actually a decreased budget. We have unprecedented amount of services to catch up on. You've heard the narrative, probably the surgical backlog. We have our own version of surgical backlog, only it's not surgery. So it's really important in 2023 that we have started the catch up of extensive programs and services that were paused during the acute phase of the pandemic. I think definitely COVID-19, we're not in the acute phase anymore, but the reality is it's not disappeared. We are still technically in a pandemic. So it's more about public health figuring out how to weave that work into our daily infectious disease work, as opposed to it being the sole focus of our programs and services for the length of time it did. I mentioned this budget is really reflective of both upstream preventative work as well as downstream reactive work. The health unit's budget, just so you know, it is about 70% of that budget are staffing dollars. And I can tell you that this incredible health unit staff are very eager to implement really important public health programs and services that are well beyond just the COVID discussion. Just also by way of background on this budget, up to 70% of the budget is funded by the province of Ontario through the Ministry of Health. Up until 2020, the funding percentage was 75-25, and then provincially that was changed to 70-30. So the board for 2023 set the budget on February 9th with a 4.5% increase over last year. Thanks. So Our service delivery certainly accounts for all of these things on this slide. I think future emergency readiness is pretty evident. Definitely, the Chief Medical Officer of Health for the province of Ontario just released actually his annual report, Dr. Kieran Moore's report. And if you'll have me back, I'd appreciate an opportunity to highlight that report with you in more detail, accompanied by our own medical officer of health, Dr. Nin Tran. I think there's some really good information in there for all of you as municipal leaders, but also as an entire Elgin County Council. Definitely the capacity in the community and system for public health work is not all back to full swing. In other words, we have partners that just aren't yet at the tables that they were at pre-COVID because they're still catching up. So we built a budget mindful of that, and definitely mindful of the economic challenges at the local, provincial, and federal levels. And I think at the end of the day, this budget represents an opportunity to really look deep into the unintended consequences of COVID, so that we can set new priorities for 2024 and beyond, and figure out the best ways to meet the needs of the community. So we're coming near the end. Definitely, the last 3 years, as I mentioned, have created a leadership response unlike any in our generation, and nobody wants a repeat of that. Just by way of background, Public Health, Southwestern Public Health was actually a new organization in 2018 because we merged Elgin St. Thomas Public Health with Oxford County Public Health. And so I think we were just starting to get our feet wet in figuring out who we were going to be as a newly merged entity, and then COVID arrived. I think it will be important to pay attention to what these last 3 years have taught us. And at the same time, staff wellness is pretty important. We have exhausted staff. I know all of you do as well. 3 years of being, the go-to people that were relied on for factual and meaningful advice for people in terms of guidance in living their lives takes a toll on all of our staff. And so just a big kudos to all of them, because in many cases, they put that work ahead of their needs, even in their own families, which is not ideal. So I think certainly staff wellness, the need to recruit and retain top talent, you're probably all facing that as well. At the end of the day, we want to be an employer that that people arrive to, that want to stay where we are. And so that is also an important focus for us. And then last but not least, I want to mention that the board is extremely keen to make very meaningful change in this community. Certainly the board discussions I've been a privilege to be part of since January are all about how to move the needle. And I don't mean the vaccination needle. I mean the needle as it relates to creating a healthier community. So the board is very eager that at the end of their 4-year term, they want to be able to say, this was accomplished, and it translated into this for our communities. And I think that is the last slide, what you can expect from us. I think I mentioned obviously some emphasis on mental health and substance use misuse, climate change adaptation and mitigation strategies, outbreak prevention and management, because at the end of the day, that is a big core of our work. That doesn't go away. And there's all kinds of infectious diseases, not just COVID. Situational assessments, as I mentioned, answering a whole bunch of data questions we have, and strategic planning, and a nice balance between innovation and risk mitigation. And I think I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Cynthia. Does anyone have any questions for Cynthia? Councillor Cookett.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Through you to Cynthia. Thank you very much for that report, Cynthia. You always tell it just like it is. So in that vein, let me make a few comments and a question. I'm looking at the overall structure of health in Ontario, and one of the areas that Ontario has stepped into is to do away with the LHINs and to develop the Ontario health teams, which are supposed to be a way of dealing with patients and the population in general from cradle to grave, and to allow patients and the population in general to navigate through the system. I'm just kind of bewildered why public health, which has many of the same kinds of objectives that the Ontario Health Team has not been, I guess, mandated as part of the Ontario Health Team, because surely that would be an income stream for public health as well. So the crises that you're talking about are the same crises that the health teams are facing. So I guess my question is, what kind of role does the public health have in the Ontario Health Team structure?
Through you, Mr. Warden, to Mr. Cookett. Thank you. Great question. So provincially, we are actually mandated to work with Ontario Health and Ontario Health Teams. We are separate in terms of how we're governed and how we're funded. And if we were to be part of Ontario Health or Ontario Health Teams in our entirety, then there would be a loss of municipal leadership and influence and partners around the table in terms of what public health needs to move the needle for our community. Having said that, we are actively involved with both the Elgin Ontario Health Team and the Oxford County Ontario Health Team. We sit at both of their coordinating tables. And when I say we, I mean specifically myself and Dr. Tran as the medical officer of health. We usually, one off each other. I go to one, he goes to the next, et cetera. What I can tell you is where our involvement is in those discussions about ensuring that our Ontario Health Teams are evidence-driven, data-driven, looking at what the evidence tells them they need to focus on. There are some great upstream conversations happening at Ontario Health Teams right now, and I'd like to think that public health is an active contributor to that.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Yes, Councillor Hens.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and through you to Cynthia. When I read your presentation on the weekend, one thing that stood out to me under your data page was opioid-related emergency visits significantly higher than the provincial rate. Teen pregnancy rates higher than the Ontario average.
Mm-hmm.
Substance use of alcohol, tobacco, and cannabis are higher in youth here than in Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a good handle on that? And my second question is, do you have the resources to deal with it?
Mm-hmm. Through you, Mr. Warden, great questions. Thank you for those two. I'm going to take them in reverse. So in terms of the resources, a 4.5% budget increase is one of the largest budget increases I've brought forward in my time in public health. But I will say that it doesn't move the needle at the speed in which we need to, but it also was set to reflect the current economic climate across the board. Having said that, I can confidently say that our team is so zeroed in on that type of data that all of our resources in our program and service delivery is geared to exactly those types of programs in order to move the needle. You're quite right. Teen pregnancy rates are higher in this area than the Ontario average. Not okay. Unintended pregnancies are costly to everyone. And so I think what I can confidently say is that's why we're doing a lot of these situational assessments or data assessments we're doing right now. I mentioned to you studying what contributes to seniors falling, et cetera. But there's 3 pages of notes I have here in terms of all the data we're studying, because it is that very data that we don't want to be higher than the Ontario average unless it's for the better of the community. And so I'm hoping, if you'll have me, we'll come back on a regular basis and talk to you about what we did locally in your communities to help change that narrative.
Thank you.
Thank you for that last statement, Cynthia. I think it would be a good idea if we can continue a dialogue and, it would be helpful for council to understand how the needle is moving per se. Excuse me. Are there any additional questions for Cynthia at this time? Councilor Noble?
Through you, Mr. Warden. Do we have a reason why we're higher on those issues that
Mhm.
Councilor Hens brought forward?
Another, through you, Mr. Warden, another great question. That is exactly why we're studying why we're higher. So it's not just how much higher are we, it's more, why are we higher? And then when we figure out the why, I mean, in some cases, in some of the data, we know the why, but in other cases, we don't. And so now it's about knowing the why so we can figure out the what in order to change that so that we're on the opposite end of that data.
Thank you for that. Councilor Whitner?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden, through you to Cynthia. That was a good presentation. I enjoyed it. I just have a question, like pre-COVID, were these numbers for all these problems that we're having, were they creeping up also, or did COVID really make this ramp up quite fast?
Through you, Mr. Warden. I love these questions. This is great. I could be here all day. So the rates were higher. What we're anticipating we're going to see, we don't know for sure, that's why we're studying it, is we think they may worsen. Some of them will definitely worsen, particularly when we think about just the social isolation people experienced in COVID. Social belonging is such a fundamental influence of being healthy that we know that 3 years of social isolation and less belonging is going to show up somewhere else. So I would say, yes, we did have issues in terms of higher teen pregnancy rates. For example, our ATV rates, injuries related to ATVs, higher, than the Ontario average. Now, keep in mind, the Ontario average includes, Toronto, Peel, York, areas that aren't necessarily on ATVs. But that's why it's important to study local data, because we need to pay attention to what our injury rates say, not what the province says that our injury rates are. So all that to say, and I went off track a little bit, but suffice to say that we believe the rates you're seeing now were the case then, back in 2018, 2019. We're studying how much different they are, and then the why, to your earlier question.
Okay, anything further? Thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you.
Be it resolved that the presentation titled "A Public Health Unit for the Future" from Southwestern Public Health be received and filed.
I have a mover and seconder, please. Okay, Councillor Sloan, Councillor Cookett will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Moving on with section 5, Committee of the Whole.
Be it resolved that we do now move into Committee of the Whole.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Hens, Deputy Warden Jones. All in favor? That's carried. Section 6, Reports of Council, Outside Boards and Staff. 6.1, Manager of Museums and Archives, Ride the Whistle Stop Trail Community Event on May the 27th, 2023. Good morning, Mike.
Morning, Warden. Morning, Council. My report today is to provide Council with some information about an event we're planning for the 27th of May at the Heritage Center. And the event we're calling the Ride the Whistle Stop is meant to bring attention to the cycling exhibition we have on now at the Heritage Center. We have a fairly comprehensive early cycling show featuring about 16 bicycles from 1870 to 1910. It also illustrates the role of individuals in Elgin County in the early cycling phenomenon. Next week as well, we expect to receive a fairly rare velocipede from what used to be called the Museum of Science and Technology in Ottawa on loan as an added attraction to the exhibit. It's got 3 months to run, goes till the end of July. So we wanted to have something that we could provide additional promotion for. So that's why we're planning an event as well. The event is essentially a ride which will follow the Whistle Stop Trail along Sunset Drive. Goes from the Railway City Tourist Building up on Talbot Street all the way to Port Stanley, where it ends at the Visitor Center. Riders can stop at the Heritage Center where they will find cycling-related vendors and activities. It's an opportunity to remind people that the trail actually exists, and since we're right on it, we took advantage of that situation. It was launched as a joint tourism effort in 2018 by both the City of St. Thomas Tourism and Elgin County Tourism. And we're fortunate to have both tourism offices as partners in the event, along with the St. Thomas Public Library. The inspiration for the event came from two of our volunteers, Rob and Carol Simmons. They're members of the Railway City Cycling Club. And they came to us about 1.5 years ago with the idea for a tour, a cycling tour in downtown St. Thomas. This became the Tales of Talbot Street, which we assisted with last fall. This year, we broadened out the scope and moved it up a little earlier to align it with the exhibition. Riders can also start their tour at the Port Stanley end of the trail, both in the tourist offices, where riders will be given a printed guide, which will contain a map and some information on the points of interest they'll pass along the way. The guide will continue to be available on tourism's website. It's going to replace a fairly out-of-date tour Port Stanley that visitors to the website can now download if they're looking for cycling maps. When they arrive at the Heritage Center, kids can do crafts. They can make bicycles out of popsicle sticks. They make streamers for their handlebars. Do you remember streamers? They can decorate bike images. These we found these to be quite popular when we launched the exhibit on Family Day. We had over 100 people on Family Day, which was our best opening. There'll be bike shop vendors, a small band, there'll be refreshments, ice cream, donuts, coffee, water. There'll be high wheel riding demonstrations, not by me. The archives is going to bring their green screen, which we use to insert people into historic photographs. And we're using photos with all bicycle themes in this situation. OPP Elgin Detachment will be coming with bikes for tips for bike safety. Elgin County Community Paramedicine has agreed to come so they can explain what they're doing to the community, and may also be handy if that in that earlier entry about the high wheel riding demonstration. Elgin County Tourism will be there as well. We're aiming for a minimum of about 50, but I expect if we have good weather, we'll see a fair number more. We're offering a gift bag for early registration, which is currently on Eventbrite. So it'll give us an idea of how interested people are in the event. We've connected with the bike clubs in town, with bike clubs in London as well, and expect something of a turnout from them. Railway City Bike Club is going to do an organized ride that day, which ends at the Heritage Center. It's going to take place in the parking lot in front of the Heritage Center and on the green space next to it. We're going to send all the cars around to the rear parking lot here and make it exclusively bike access. I must say in conclusion that I'm very glad to have our partners from both Elgin County Tourism, St. Thomas Tourism, St. Thomas Public Library, and our volunteers. We couldn't do it without them. And I'll end by cordially inviting members of council to come by and see how we're doing. And also ask you to pray for good weather. Warden, I'd be glad to take questions if there are any.
Thank you for that presentation. Does anyone have any questions? Deputy Warden Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. More of a comment is, it's always great to see our Mike out and about in the community and the various events that our Heritage Center is involved with. I'd like to thank Mike for the participation last weekend at our playing shed. Mike provided many historical artifacts that are relevant to the time, and it was greatly appreciated your participation, Mike. Thank you.
That was my pleasure. It's a great day.
Thank you. Counselor Sloan.
Mike, I think this should be a challenge to see how many counselors will participate. This counselor signed up on Eventbrite, so I look forward to it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for doing that.
Anything further? Jenna?
Be it resolved that the report titled Ride the Whistle Stop Trail Community Event on May 27th, 2023, dated April 25th, 2023, from the manager of Museum and Archives be received and filed.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Sloan will move. Counselor Noble will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 6.2, Director of Community and Cultural Services, Access to Information and Privacy Policy Adoption. Good morning, Brian.
Yeah. Good morning, Mr. Warden, through you to County Council. This report recommends that council approve an updated access to information privacy policy. This is a comprehensive revision and updates areas such as a statement on routine disclosure, where information can be supplied without a formal application, the matter of access to counselor records, more clarity on delegation of duties under the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, and a privacy breach protocol, which is an outstanding requirement of the Office of the Information Privacy Commissioner of Ontario as a result of our network disruption in 2022. Legal Services has reviewed this policy and provided input into its contents, and I'm happy to answer any further questions that council may have.
Thank you for the report. Any questions? Seeing none?
Be it resolved that the report titled Access to Information and Privacy Policy Adoption dated April 17th, 2023, from the Director of Community and Cultural Services be received and filed, and that the Access to Information and Privacy Policy attached to the staff report as Appendix A be hereby adopted.
Do I have a mover and seconder for that? Counselor Hentz and Deputy Warden Jones, all in favor? That's carried. Moving on with section 6.3, General Manager of Engineering, Planning and Enterprise, Deputy CAO, Culvert Rehabilitations, tender number 2023 T11, and Bridge and Culvert Repairs, tender number 2023 T12, tender awards. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Through you to council. Before you is a staff report detailing two recent tenders closed as it relates to culvert rehabilitations on various county roads, as well as bridge and culvert repairs. The difference here being larger diameter, 3 meters and larger in size, whereby 17 structures were identified located throughout the county for rehabilitation. The recommendation as it relates to those repairs identified are coming out of the county's biannual OSAM inspection report. So the tender results are before you. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that report. Any questions? Counselor Hentz.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Through you to Brian. Are these culvert replacements or inserts?
Through Mr. Warden, slip lining of culverts forms the bulk of our rehabilitation efforts. And then repairs may consist of partial replacement of culverts and or relining of the invert of the culverts and other repairs as identified by our consultant.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Seeing none?
Be it resolved that Hornblower Earth Boring Incorporated be selected to complete culvert rehabilitations on various roads, tender number 2023-T11 at a total price of $1,115,300, inclusive of a $50,000 contingency allowance and exclusive of HST, and that WeatherTech Restoration Services Incorporated be selected to complete bridge and culvert repairs on 17 structures, tender number 2023-T12 at a total price of $1,604,951.50, inclusive of a $250,000 contingency allowance and exclusive of HST, and that the warden and chief administrative officer be directed and authorized to sign the contracts.
Mover and seconder, please. Okay, Counselor Latham and Counselor Hentz. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 6.4, General Manager of Engineering, Planning and Enterprise, Deputy CAO, Granular Road Shouldering, tender number 2023-T15, tender award. Brian, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Through you again to council, before is another staff report detailing tender results as it relates to granular road shouldering. So we work each year closely with our local municipal partners to identify roads for which gravel shoulders may need to be topped up. And so before you, 3 county road road sections were identified. Tender was released and the tender results are before you. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that report. Any questions? Jenna?
Be it resolved that D&D Trucking and Construction Service Incorporated be selected to complete granular road shouldering on various roads, tender number 2023-T15 at a total price of $502,500, exclusive of HST, and that the warden and chief administrative officer be directed and authorized to sign the contract.
Mover and seconder, please. Deputy Warden Jones, Counselor Jiguer, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 6.5, General Manager of Engineering, Planning and Enterprise, Deputy CAO, Traffic Signal Modernization, Single Source Contract Award for Installation. Brian, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Through you to council. Last year, the county issued a request for proposal to supply or upgrade the county's traffic signal equipment. Specifically, Wavetronic radar technology was deployed at 2 intersections here on Sunset at John Wise Line, as well as Southdale being the 2 first intersections that were upgraded to this newer technology. Included in that RFP was the option to extend the contract for the balance of intersections. With the recent removal of the county's Ron McNeil Line and Highbury Ave intersection, and transferred to the city of St. Thomas, that leaves us with 7 intersections yet to be upgraded. So staff through our manager of procurement sought pricing as it relates to the 7 additional intersections and are recommending that the balance of those intersections be upgraded. The details of the quotation received are before you. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
And thank you for that report. Any questions? Deputy Warden Jones.
Just a comment, I'll be glad to see Iona get changed. I think it'd be a huge improvement to what we have right now.
Okay, perfect. Jenna, please.
Be it resolved that Guild Electric Limited be selected to complete the installation of Wavetronics radar intersection detection systems and universal power supply systems at 7 traffic signal controlled intersections in accordance with section 4.7C3 of the county's procurement policy, and that the warden and chief administrative officer be directed and authorized to sign the contract.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Cookett will move. Counselor Widner will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 6.6, again from the General Manager of Engineering, Planning and Enterprise, Deputy CAO, no stopping zone, Belmont Road.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Through you to council, county staff have recently received several complaints and concerns expressed by members of the public with respect to large vehicles parked within the vicinity of the intersection of Belmont Road and Borden Ave. As many may be aware, a recent Tim Hortons establishment recently opened, and concerns once again expressed with respect to operators of these larger vehicles stopping, likely grabbing a refreshment and possibly some food, and then returning to their vehicle. During that time period, local businesses within the same vicinity have expressed concern with respect to turning and sightline obstacles as resulting from these parked vehicles. Accordingly, staff undertook a site assessment to confirm whether or not adequate sightlines were present, and confirmed on one specific date, with coincidentally the presence of a parked large vehicle, that adjustment with respect to parking was needed. And so staff, as detailed in the staff report, are recommending the establishment of no parking zone south of the existing railway tracks. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that report, Brian. Any questions? Counselor Whitner.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden, through you to Brian. We're telling them where they can't park. Is there any suggested places they can park? There's always a trouble with the trucks and the restaurants, and it happens all over. But they're really Main Street, I don't know. You tell me.
Through you, Mr. Warden, to Councillor Whitner. Certainly, the establishment of the no parking zone as identified here wouldn't necessarily preclude them from parking a little further south and then walking towards the establishment. There is on-street parking within the Belmont settlement limits. However, during certain times of the day, that may not be available. So unfortunately, operators of these large vehicles may at times need to walk a little bit further. But again, we're not prohibiting parking any further beyond those limits.
Anything further? Jenna?
Be it resolved that the report titled No Stopping Zone, Belmont Road, dated April 11th, 2023, from the General Manager of Engineering, Planning and Enterprise, Deputy CAO, be received and filed, and that Schedule B of bylaw number 20-05 be amended to include the following: 21.25 County Road 74, Section A, from 50 meters south of the south property line of Borden Avenue to 130 meters south of Borden Avenue on both the west and east sides of County Road 74.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Noble will move. Counselor Whitner will second. All in favor? That's carried. 6.7 from the General Manager of Engineering, Planning and Enterprise, Deputy CAO, Central Elgin Official Plan Amendment, file number CE OPA 1-23.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Through you to council. With the support of our acting manager of planning, Mr. Hicks, who's joining us virtually, I'll provide a brief synopsis as it relates to this report. So official plan amendment, the first in response to the municipality of Central Elgin's newest official plan, is tabled before you and was received in response to the need to redesignate lands from natural heritage to commercial industrial site-specific commercial industrial designation. The lands are currently owned by the municipality of Central Elgin, and an agreement of purchase and sale is in hand to sell the property to Westel for the purpose of building a commercial plaza development as shown in the various attachments included in the staff report. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Hicks, and who may provide further elaboration or additional context.
Good morning, Paul.
Good morning, Mr. Warden. I won't repeat very much of what Mr. Lima has provided to council in terms of background, but we are in receipt of an official plan amendment number 1 to the Central Elgin, the newly adopted Central Elgin official plan. Mr. Lima has outlined that this is a redesignation from a natural heritage designation to a site-specific commercial industrial designation. This official plan amendment went through the standard technical circulation. A series of supporting plans and reports were prepared, including an environmental impact assessment that reviewed the natural heritage qualities and features of the subject lands, and indicating that they were more appropriately designated for industrial and commercial purposes. Staff have reviewed this in light of provincial policy, the county official plan, and the Central Elgin official plan, and have no concerns with the proposed official plan amendment. Neither did any agencies or outside bodies that had submitted comments with respect to this application. As such, staff are recommending an approval of this application to County Council this morning.
Thank you for that report. Does anyone have any questions for either Brian or Paul? Seeing none?
Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the County of Elgin approve official plan amendment number 1 to the official plan of the municipality of Central Elgin, file number CEOPA 1-23, and that staff be directed to provide notice of this decision in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Noble will move. Counselor Sloan will second. All in favor? Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. As a brief introduction before you is a staff report for which council has the opportunity to approve a draft plan of subdivision, or sorry, a draft plan of condominium within the settlement boundary limits of Port Stanley, whereby 27 townhouse dwelling units are proposed. With that, I will turn it over to Mr. Hicks, who will provide additional context.
Thank you again, Mr. Warden and Mr. Lima. Again, I'll keep my comments brief on this particular file. This is a draft plan of condominium, as Mr. Lima had pointed out, located within the settlement area of Port Stanley. With this particular proposal, this has the support of both staff and of council at Central Elgin. During the approvals process, or during the development review process, this plan was circulated to the standard technical agencies. No issues were received by those agencies or public bodies that were circulated the draft plan of condominium. Notwithstanding that, a number of concerns were raised by members of the public with respect to the proposal that is before County Council this morning. I would note, in having reviewed the concerns by members of the public with respect to this proposal, the concerns relate primarily to matters of site plan approval that are within the scope of Central Elgin's jurisdiction, and with respect to any comments that were received with respect to the actual division of the land, which is the subject of this application before County Council. No concerns were raised by municipal staff or by county staff. Further, again, having gone through the comments that were received, the numerous comments that were received by members of the general public, we're satisfied that any concerns from the general public with respect to the division of the land, the condominiumization of the land, can be addressed through the conditions of draft approval and through the condominium agreement, which will be executed between the municipality of Central Elgin and the developer. With respect to the policy review, the proposal was reviewed in light of the provincial policy statement, county official plan, and the local official plan, and staff at both the local and county levels are satisfied that the proposal meets those policy requirements, and as such, staff are recommending a approval subject to the conditions that are before County Council this morning on this application.
Thank you for that report, Paul. Does anyone have any questions? All's quiet. Jenna?
Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the County of Elgin grant draft plan approval to the draft plan of vacant land condominium proposed by Cyril J. Demeyer Limited in the municipality of Central Elgin, described under file number 34 CD-CE 2201, and that staff be directed to provide notice of this decision subject to the conditions for final approval in accordance with the Planning Act.
Mover and seconder, please. Deputy Warden Jones and Counselor Widner. All in favor? That is carried. All right, we're slightly over the first hour. Does anyone want a break? We've got a ways to go yet. Then we're gonna take a 10-minute break, okay? Welcome back. We left off at section 6.9 from the General Manager of Engineering, Planning and Enterprise, Deputy CAO, Lease Extension Agreement, Alzheimer's Society, Southwest Partners, Elgin County.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Through you to council. Before you is a staff report whereby staff is presenting a lease extension agreement with Alzheimer's Society Southwest Partners, one of the county's long-term standing tenants here at our county administration building. The agreement is for a one-year extension commencing May 1st, 2023 and ending April 30th, 2024. No significant adjustments with respect to the suite itself were requested by the tenant. The details of the lease arrangement and financial details are included in the staff report. With that, be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that report. Does anyone have any questions?
Be it resolved that the report titled Lease Extension Agreement, Alzheimer's Society Southwest Partners, Elgin County, dated April 19th, 2023, be received and filed. And that Elgin County Council approve and authorize the Warden and Chief Administrative Officer to execute a lease extension agreement between Elgin County and Alzheimer's Society Southwest effective May 1st, 2023, and for the one-year term commencing May 1st, 2023, and ending April 30th, 2024.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Latham and Counselor Noble will second. All in favor? That's carried. 6.10 from the General Manager of Engineering, Planning and Enterprise, Deputy CAO, Elgin Riddell, approval of commercial lease, Elgin County Administration Building Suites 223, 225, and 227.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Through you to council. Here again is another staff report associated with lease agreement with Mervyn L. Riddell as it relates to ongoing lease of suites here in the county building. Once again, a long-term tenant. The details of the agreement are detailed in the staff report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that report. Any questions?
Be it resolved that the report titled Elgin Riddell Approval of Commercial Lease, Elgin County Administration Building, Suites 223, 225, and 227, dated April 19th, 2023, be received and filed. And that Elgin County Council approve a new commercial lease agreement between Mervyn L. Riddell and Elgin County in relation to Suites 223, 225, and 227 in the County Administration Building at 450 Sunset Drive, St. Thomas, Ontario. Such lease agreement to provide for, amongst other terms, a 2-year term commencing May 1st, 2023, and annual rents of $14,769.84 and $15,509.89 respectively for the included lease years. And that Elgin County Council authorized the Warden and Chief Administrative Officer to execute the said lease agreement.
Mover and seconder, please. Deputy Warden Jones and Counselor Jiguer. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Which moves us to section 7, council correspondence, 7.1 items for correspondence or consideration, 7.11 resolution from the municipality of West Elgin. Does anyone wish to speak to this? Counselor Latham.
Through you, Mr. Warden, to council. Alderborough Public School has had an extension put on and also a new entrance that comes out onto Furnival Road. And none of the speed limit signs have been moved to adjust for that new driveway going into school. So roughly 30 yards past the new entrance is the 80 kilometers speed limit sign. So people see that and as soon as they see the 80, they put their foot down and they're speeding right by the new entrance. It is going to be an accident. It's waiting for an accident to happen. It is that new portion of the school has been opened and but the official opening is the 24th, but it is now in use with 18 early years. So I treat it as a matter of importance to get those signs put in a proper place, especially when the 401, it gets blocked and all the wagons and trailers and everything come through Rodney. If there's a function on at the school, because of the car parking is inadequate, they park all down Furnival Road. So that also narrows it. But once you get the 401 traffic there, it's going to be chaotic and they don't pay so much notice to the speed signs. So let's give them plenty of warning, try to make the school as safe as possible. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that. I would suggest we look to staff for recommendation on where the placement of those signs are or should be. So would it be amenable to you, Councillor Latham, that we await a staff report to come back? If that works for everyone? Okay. Do you happen to have a resolution for that? Okay, thank you. Jana?
Be it resolved that staff be directed to provide a follow-up report addressing requests from the municipality of West Elgin regarding signage needs, signage locations, and the establishment of a community safety zone in the area surrounding Aldborough Public School in the village of Rodney.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Latham and Councillor Hentz will second. All in favor? That's carried. 7.2, items for information to I'm sorry, Deputy Warden Jones, I thought you were just voting.
Yeah, no, that's right. Thank you, Mr. Warden. Just a further comment. When Councillor Latham commented on lack of parking at a public school, and that seems to be a common theme. For a lot of our public schools now, they've expanded their the school is Southwold prime example where they expanded the school and took it away from parking.
Right.
And I think that's something we should probably talk to Thames Valley about is they need to recognize they just can't keep parking cars on busy highways and think that everything's okay. Just a comment.
No, that's a very good point. Would you recommend perhaps we deal with this through correspondence? Would you like to have it firmed up as a motion? You know what I'm looking for a little more, flesh it out a little more for me.
Well, I guess it's something maybe it just, I know it's not on the agenda, but something to be discussed at some point. But it comes back to council for discussion at a future meeting. That's fine with me too.
Okay, could we have that just noted for a future agenda item? Thank you. And thanks for bringing that forward. Now moving forward with the consent agenda, 7.2.1, the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus media release. The WOWC unveils its 2023-2024 priorities to MPs and MPPs. Are there any questions? Okay.
Be it resolved that the correspondence from the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus be received and filed.
A mover and seconder, please. Councillor Noble will move, Councillor Crooked will second. All in favor? That's carried. Brings us to section 8, other business. 8.1, statements, inquiries by members. 8.2, notice of motion. 8.3 matters of urgency. All right, that brings us to the closed agenda items.
Be it resolved that we do now proceed into closed meeting session in accordance with the Municipal Act to discuss the following matters under Municipal Act, Section 239(2). For closed meeting item number 1, labor relations matter collective bargaining, Section 239(2)D. For closed meeting item number 2, Elgin Explorer Incorporated Telecommunications Agreement negotiations, Section 239(2)F and K. And closed meeting item number 3, OLT 22-004706, Section 239(2)E and F.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Sloan will move, Counselor Noble will second, all in favor. That's carried. All right, thank you. Welcome back. Motion to rise and report.
Be it resolved that we do now rise and report.
Is that a mover, and Counselor Sloan? Seconder? Counselor Jiguer, all in favor? Thank you. Closed meeting item number 1.
Be it resolved that staff proceed as directed.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Sloan, Deputy Warden Jones, all in favor? That's carried. Closed meeting item number 2.
Be it resolved that the Director of Legal Services proceed as directed.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Sloan, Counselor Noble will second, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Closed item closed item number 3.
Be it resolved that the Director of Legal Services proceed as directed.
Mover and seconder, Counselor Noble, Counselor Sloan, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Adoption of recommendations from the Committee of the Whole.
Be it resolved that we do now adopt recommendations of the Committee of the Whole.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Sloan, Deputy Warden Jones, all in favor? That is carried. The bylaws.
Be it a first, second, and third read of bylaw number 23-18, being a bylaw to amend Schedule B to bylaw number 20-05, being a consolidated bylaw for the regulation of traffic, including parking on county roads.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Sloan, Counselor Noble. All in favor? That's carried. Confirmation bylaw.
Be it a first, second, and third read of bylaw number 23-19, being a bylaw to confirm proceedings of the Municipal Council of the Corporation of the County of Elgin at the April 25th, 2023 meeting.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Sloan. Counselor Latham. All in favor? Carried, which brings us to the adjournment motion.
Be it resolved that we do now adjourn at 10:57 a.m. to meet again on May 9th, 2023 at 9 o'clock a.m.
Okay, moved by Counselor Widner. Seconded by Counselor Noble. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And thank you to those who joined us this morning. And thanks for your interest in local governance. Have a pleasant day.